Dean Obadallah. He wants to be your Muslim friend.
Most Muslims, I know many, are great people.
Watch this.
People.
You're listening to the Dean Obadallah Show, where comedy meets politics and all things in between.
And welcome back to Dean Obadallah Show. We're live Friday, February 15th. And in studio, look who is here, folks. It is our friend Chely Wright, country music star, but much more, an activist, progressive activist, LGBT activist, trailblazer, and she's here now. How are you, Chely?
I'm great. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And
Woohoo.
she came in, she took a shower for this, which is really important. She doesn't shower.
I did.
Thank you very much for showering for
But
this.
I put on the exact same clothes I had on before my shower because they're soft clothes because it's Friday.
Got a Yankee hat on and the sweatshirt.
From Hawaii.
From Hawaii. All right, well.
J. Crew jeans, or not jeans, what are they? Like
Are you
Dockers.
sponsors? Is it the kind of thing like you're on tour and they sponsor you with clothes?
One would think. There are days that I look down and from, neck to toes, I'm in J. Crew.
If you Google Chely Wright and you see pictures, she's always like made up and stuff like that. So this is a whole different look. This is not the.
You've
it's a
seen
picture.
this?
No, I have. But
Oh,
if
right.
people were to Google and then they're like, wow, look at these glamour photos. We have a picture of you right there on the wall. Because we have I think we're live streaming on Facebook.com/Dean of Radio. So you can see an image of Chely before and now the new and improved Chely, who's just like chill and hanging out and tweeting a lot about politics. Even though you're a country music star, and we've talked about this before, where it couldn't be inconsistent with some people in your base being a country music performer, chair of the country, and being anti-Trump or being pro-American, as I like to call it now, not anti-Trump. Let me ask you, Trump national emergency, go! Reaction.
It was the greatest 53 minutes of live television I've seen all year. I loved it. There were moments where I laughed. There were moments that I was, I guess, stunned. I couldn't believe he actually cut the legs of his party out from under them again. But then again, I can kind of believe it.
Here are my reviews. I've never seen so many lies in so little time, raved one person. Trump deserves an Emmy for best work of fiction, screamed another critic. Finally, someone said, I laughed, I cried, I'm moving to Canada. That was me. These are just, it was not, here's my favorite part, is when he destroyed the entire thesis of why he was doing this, because he was saying it's an emergency, except if you hear the words coming out of my mouth telling you it's not an emergency, it's a really clip. We don't like to play a lot of Trump on the show. I'm not kidding. We're going to play this 20-second clip number 2.
The primary fight was on the wall. Everything else we have so much, as I said, I don't know what to do with it. We have so much money. But on the wall, they skimped. So I was successful in that sense, but I want to do it faster. I could do the wall over a longer period of time. I didn't need to do this, but I'd rather do it much faster.
I didn't need to do this. I got so much money. I don't know what to do with it. You've got so much money, then you can use it for border security. You got so much money. But
Also, P.S., it's already built.
Right, it's built, and he said during the thing, Mexico already paid for it indirectly. So it's a wrap. Shut it down.
We're done.
We're moving on.
Yeah.
It's remarkable to be at the press conference. This is not a random talking thing. This is at the press conference saying this is an emergency, why it is so dire.
That was the point of the conference.
Right, it's emergency, so inherently it's unexpected, it's dramatic, something happened. He goes, I didn't have to do this, folks, but I like talking to strangers, so I thought I'd come out here and...
Right. Did you like the part about where he acknowledged that this is about the election, the 2020 election? That was fun, too.
He did. He went back and forth.
I don't need it, I need it.
Trump does a lot of, thinking there's extra points for showing his work. We don't need to see the inner thoughts because he does the whole, most people would think it through and then speak. But Trump goes, I'm not going to play the clip, but he said things like, this is not about the 2020 election, but I've done so much, more than anyone. You know what? Democrats are going to make, but it's not about the election, but I did make a promise. So he's literally, you're seeing his thoughts.
Yeah, all on paper. Not on the paper.
The world is seeing his thoughts. There's no extra, don't show your work. Just
sometimes
do the right thing.
When he's doing a long kind of bloviating presser like this, I sometimes get stuck in my head thinking that there is no one there. And then they pan out afterward when he takes questions, they pan out and you see the entire cabinet, all of these, a lot of pretty smart people, frankly, whether they're supporting him or not. You don't end up in the Rose Garden if you're not, reading something,
right?
Whether you're a journalist or in the cabinet. They sit through that, and I wonder, do they grab one another by the hand and go, oh, Do they react the way that we react when somebody says something like that publicly?
I think
in our
some of them
presence?
close their eyes and go to their special place,
Okay.
wherever it might be. They're like,
You have to.
like, I'm not here. Like, I'm a bird. I'm flying away.
Right.
And I'm somewhere. I'm on a beach somewhere, and everything's fine.
Let's guess. Let me just tell me, out of like 50 people from the administration that sit out there, how many of them took a Xanax? How many of them take a pill before he speaks?
It depending who they are, because I think some are actually dead already.
Okay.
It's just like it's a Weekend at Bernie's thing. They just put their bodies out there and they sit there.
But
And
some of them
some
are,
are
right?
morally dead,
Yeah.
like Sarah Suckaby, as I call her. She's just not even living anymore. It's hard to say, but they sit there, and if they have any ambitions to work in government or be taken seriously after this administration, I think it's more painful. For
Right,
older ones, like Bill Barr, who's now got the first
He
day.
said, "Good luck with your life."
Right, first day as AG, sitting across from Trump there, and he goes, "Hey, Bill Barr's here. Good luck with your life." And Barr's like, this is not the way I was going to go out. This is like, I deserve better than this. But he was at the
taking
twilight
one
of his
for the
career
team.
anyway.
Yeah.
But the younger ones got to worry, like, do you put this on your resume? Because I'm not kidding. Like, there is
Right.
what did you do in the Trump administration? And within Republican circles, it's probably fine. But except for getting hired on Fox News, I don't know where it goes for you. And
Yeah.
now, the thing is, on a serious note, what if he declares national emergencies for things that people aren't thinking about? Say he goes, abortion is murder. It's happening every day. I'm declaring national emergency. No more abortions allowed in this country. People go like, well, what about Roe versus Wade? He'll go, well, I'm declaring an emergency. Let the courts decide it. And he gets his test case going back to the Supreme Court on Roe versus Wade, which would be...
And he stacked the court, so
right.
he's good to
so
go.
you have this remarkably oddly clever way of getting Roe versus Wade before the Supreme Court again, although you really couldn't decide on the merits, let's say, but that or says we have to overturn marriage equality because it's an attack on the institution of marriage and it's an emergency, and he'll bring someone up there who somehow is a victim of same-sex marriage and something happened, whatever
Right.
it might be, the same thing. Because if you're going to allow him to create out of nothing an emergency,
It's a dangerous
there's no
precedent.
limit. There's no limit.
Yeah. And his Republican henchmen and women, they know that. They know they're about to screw the pooch.
I wonder. I don't know.
Do they even care?
Well, here's Mike
They're so
Pence
done.
in 2014 slamming President Obama for doing executive order on immigration. And keep in mind, as you probably all know today, Mike Pence is defending Donald Trump. This is the greatest thing because he's the greatest guy ever. I love him. He's my second favorite guy next to Jesus. Here is, which is the one we've got here? Mike Pence, clip number 4, please.
I think it would be a profound mistake for the President of the United States to overturn American immigration law with the stroke of a pen. The President ought to sit down in January with the new Republican majority in the Senate and the historically large new majority in the House and search for common ground. That's what leadership looks like. Signing an executive order, giving a speech, barnstorming around the country defending that executive order is not leadership.
It's not
Right,
leadership.
It's not. But what is it today? Did you have today's clip?
I would just give you an impression of it. It's the greatest thing ever. God loves it, and Jesus is cool with it. Something like
Yeah,
that. Like
it's all
he
good.
defended it completely. So, what do you? I mean, let me ask you the big question: calling out the right's hypocrisy. Does it do anything except for keeping our own sanity? Because I think there is some benefit to doing it.
I don't think it matters anymore.
But to
The
us,
line-
us,
We all know. I mean, really, how many times a day do we go to the TV and we see them talking about the unparalleled hypocrisy? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't move the needle with anyone. Everyone's decided you're either with Trump or you're against him. I feel like we're in an echo chamber, and
But I think we're doing it. I mean, if we don't do that, doesn't it just normalize lies and hypocrisy? I mean, I think that's
Yeah, but
why, for
who's-
our own sanity, for us.
But his supporters aren't watching.
No, but for us, like our own self-help group that we're in now. Like this is what this is really about.
group? We're in. Oh shit, we're in group.
We're about helping each other through a very difficult time, and I think we really are. And the resistance on some level was psychological. I think it was helping people realize you're not alone in
Right.
face of this monster Donald Trump who wants to destroy what our nation's about.
Yeah.
And the fact we have the House now makes this a little bit more okay because we did this before. I think we really feel like we're in the middle of a sea in a little boat and we're on
Yeah.
our own, but we're not alone.
Right.
And we worked so hard, we got the House. But I actually think, honestly, even though it doesn't move them, we have to call them out.
For the record, I suppose we have to. And I guess maybe that's why I watch Rachel every night. I need that hug from her. I don't need a panel with both sides talking about it.
You know, the theater of television.
I don't need it because it didn't help me. It made me feel the fact that the other side was getting an equal voice in, it's ridiculous. It's like putting me and my son in a room for writing a song, and he gets to write as many lines as I do just because keep it equal. He's 5.
Right.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Well,
I mean, on many days, what I wrote today would suggest that I'm 4.
So, all right. So, what about this upside here? I mean, here's Nancy Pelosi looking at the upside. This was from yesterday, though, talking about, well, what happens if a Democrat gets elected? Here's clip number 7.
The president can declare an emergency on something that he has created as an emergency, an illusion that he wants to convey. Just think of what a president with different values can present to the American people. You want to talk about a national emergency? Let's talk about today, the 1-year anniversary of another manifestation of the epidemic of gun violence in America. That's a national emergency. Why don't you declare that emergency, Mr. President? I wish you would.
And today, 5 were killed in an Aurora in a mass shooting. That'll be added to the 30 that typically killed every single day in this country from gun violence, including 5 to 8 children. Another 60 take their lives using guns, and gun laws can even bring down suicides because in states where they have waiting periods, it's brought it down. So what do you think, though? I mean, to be optimistic that, hey, here's the silver lining. This is horrible, but the Democratic president gets to do anything, could do things and day one, make it a Disney World for progressives. But my fear is we don't have another election again because this guy declares emergencies before we get to November 2020.
Yeah, well, even when we get a Democrat back in the office of the Oval, which I think will happen, a morally sound president who truly believes in the democracy upon which the United States is based is not going to do an executive action like that. As much as I would love to see an executive action on guns, a president of a moral standing will not circumvent Congress. They're not going to do that. Not for guns.
I wonder, though, if the progressive base will be so demanding and going, look what Trump did. We elected you, and you said you were going to do things for us. And stop waiting for Congress to for universal background checks, which 90% of Americans upwards support, that kind of thing.
Right.
A big part of this is not just allocating $8 billion without congressional approval, which violates the Constitution, but also taking land of about 1,000 miles of private property without congressional approval, meaning a guy sits in his office, Trump, signs a document, and your private property is gone, meaning in the future, Democratic president can say, we're taking all your AR-15s. You'll be compensated, but we're taking them. Mm-hmm. And good luck with that. And that's Do
you think a Democrat would do that?
I don't think the taking of the guns, I think that would be too stunning, because actually to go to take guns from people, you're really setting up a scenario where you're going to have violence in some places, and that's just not needed.
But
banning
you mean just like
sales.
Legislation on?
I think universal background checks, definitely. Banning AR-15 sales going in the future, limiting clips of guns to 10 bullets.
Yeah,
that's an easy thing to sell. Even mandating the way that guns are stored in homes. Well, that might be a state thing as opposed to a federal one, but. In any event, there are various laws a president could do because we need national gun laws. And, interesting, there was a Fox News poll yesterday, and they actually have pretty good methodology, even though they're Fox News. But interestingly, it came out yesterday, and they asked about what do you consider an emergency? And opioid epidemic, 40% in the Fox News said emergency. Mm-hmm. Climate change, 30% said emergency. Percentage that thought the situation of the border is an emergency, guess what percentage?
Oh, God. I don't even know. 70?
No, 27%. That's what's remarkable.
They really don't even believe it.
Right. So this is not just a Fox News viewers. This is a real Fox News methodology is pretty good. It's like an A- from 538. So this is a real poll. So but it's slightly skewed because it is Fox.
Right.
And even their poll,
27%.
Only 27% in a brand new poll yesterday think situation at the border is an emergency, while 29% say it's minor. I mean, that was the most stunning thing. While 40% said opioid crisis is an emergency. 30% said climate changes. So you have, this is for such a subsect of his base, the Sean Hannity, Ann Coulter called him she said the only national emergency is that Trump's an idiot today,
Yeah.
which is just.
And he said, I don't know her. I don't know her.
I don't know what happened. Did I pay her hush money? No, you didn't pay her hush
Right.
money. So this is where we are. I don't know. As a mom, like, are your concerns different beyond just yourself in the time of Trump? Like, what are your concerns as a mom as you see what Trump is doing?
You know, my wife and I had an appointment this morning with our boys' teachers. They're in separate classes, so both teachers were there, the assistant principal. We talked about the stuff we needed to talk about, and the question we had before we left was, hey, have you guys done a lockdown drill? Because our boys have not said anything to us about it. And they said, yeah, we've actually done a couple, which came as a big surprise to me. I thought that the boys would come home and, Mama, we did this, and what does it mean?
Right.
And, you know, of course, they're in kindergarten, so their teachers have ways of getting them through a lockdown drill without scaring them, thank God. I think about it every single day that we drop them off.
You do?
Oh, yeah. We're in New York City, and things like this don't typically happen in New York, but their playground is open. Like, somebody could storm the playground. I mean, it's locked. There's a chain link fence.
Right.
But I kiss them every day as we drop them off, and I think about Fred Gutenberg.
I hear that powerful tweet yesterday about his two children went to school that one day, only one came home.
And he said, did I say I loved her?
Right, like they're waiting about the day. So
yeah.
It's not something I think. I have no children, but when I've interviewed young people last year for the March for Life, we went to New Jersey and talked to younger people, and all of them talked about these lockdown drills they've been doing for years. Teachers and students. I'm like, what? I didn't know it was going on for years. Like in New Jersey, I never thought about it.
Right.
And it's part of their life where at some point they probably become conscious of it. At another point, maybe it just becomes like mechanical. Oh, we're doing this thing, blah, blah, blah. We go walk through. But there's got to be times when they're aware that they're doing this because there's a fear someone's going to come in their school to kill them. Mm-hmm. I didn't fear. I worried about a bully.
Yeah.
You know, when I went to school, I worried about someone walking in my school and shooting and killing me.
Do you remember that McDonald's shooting in the 80s in San Ysidro, California? It was like the first, public shooting that I remember in my lifetime. Since that day, I've gone into a public restaurant or wherever. I always look around for where I would hide, how I would get out. And that feeling, that kind of little bubble of anxiety that I get in a public place has only grown and magnified over the years. And on stage for years and years and years. And then it happened in Vegas at a country music concert. Somebody goes and kills a bunch of people.
Yes, of course. It was horrible.
But as a performer, that is a really vulnerable place. And we've all, as performers, we've all gotten up there, done a show, and looked around you look for people in the audience. Somebody raises an arm weird, and that's what I think about. And that's just like years ago. Think about what it's like to be a kid, an 11th grader today in a public school.
And the parents and the kids worrying about going to school and being killed, and that it's part of their life to worry about that.
And
so,
we can do something about it.
I know.
But we just
could
won't.
easily. Well, we would, but the Republicans will not because they value access to an AR-15 over the life of children being killed. I mean, that's the reality, and they get upset when we say that. But prove me wrong. Tell me you want universal background checks. Tell me you want to limit AR-15 sales. Tell me you want to limit
We used to have a ban on them.
We did, and they play games with statistics. We don't have to get into the whole. But it's funny. My mom, and I'm not making light of this. The truth. My mom is Sicilian, 100%. And whenever she goes to a restaurant, she'll never sit with her back to the door.
Right.
And she always says, I'm Sicilian, I can't sit with my back to the door. Yeah. To this day, like we go to a diner for breakfast, she goes, I don't want to sit outside of the booth. I always want to see the door. Because your grandfather, her father, that's what it's sort of like a Godfather type of thing.
Yeah.
It's funny, my mom has early dementia, but she has great clarity on certain things, like Donald Trump's an asshole. She says it all the time.
She knows that.
Oh my God. She's like, he's terrible. She calls him an asshole. And that's my mom. That's a Sicilian speak. All right. Well, I want to take a break. When I'm going to come back, I want to talk about a couple of things with LGBT issues because you're an activist in your community and very
so gay.
Yeah, I don't know how gay you are, but you are an activist. You're outspoken. You were the first person in country music to come out openly as being gay years ago, and there were a couple of things the Trump administration did. One was meeting with some really anti-LGBT activists that got almost no press coverage just recently, and in South Carolina, allowing anti-LGBT policies. They waived a policy that Obama had. They just did this. We'll get through that to protect. That makes it legalizes discrimination against same-sex people who want to adopt.
Yeah,
And this is going on right now in this country. It's getting no press. This happened a week ago. I mean,
Yeah.
it's getting almost no press because everything else is sucked up by this moron's
Right.
what he's doing. So him and Mike Pence are doing the Christian Sharia law implementation, and it's really Pence. We know it. So let's come back. We'll talk about those issues with our friend Chely Wright right after this.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
Voting is the most important civil right of our era because the right to vote preserves all other rights. It's not the Second Amendment. It's not guns. It's voting.
Sirius XM Progress. And now, more of the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM's Progress.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Friday, February 15th. We are fighting every day to save this republic from the devious, dastardly Donald Trump. And right now, in studio helping us do that is our friend Chely Wright, country music star and LGBT activist. And let's talk about LGBT activism here.
Let's do it.
Because the media can't cover everything. There's certain things I
Right.
get very upset they don't cover. The media's bias, everyone's left and right, is towards ratings on cable news. So they don't cover other stories that I think are important. So I'm glad you're here. I saw here just last month, the Department of Health and Human Services announced it granted South Carolina a request for a waiver from an Obama-era regulation that had prohibited adoption agencies that receive federal funds from discriminating on the basis of religion or sexual orientation. And under this waiver, now state-contracted foster care agencies can turn away foster and adoptive parents who don't share these agencies. Really, they're Christian beliefs. I mean, it really is not just same.
Yeah.
They have to have Christian beliefs, and now they can discriminate. But it's really about they're really trying to prevent same-sex couples from adopting.
Right, right.
So they're saying it's religious liberty. So this is the old the Mike Pence trope of I want religious liberty, but I'm going to use Jesus to hate other people.
Yeah. And you sent me those articles today. I hadn't seen them. I see all of that stuff. And you're right. They kind of fly under the radar when the news cycle is sucked up by Donald's syntax.
But when you hear about this, I mean, there was a letter sent by Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney, Congresswoman Angie Craig, and bisexual, they're openly gay, and bisexual member of Congress, Katie Hill, and 95 Democrats denouncing the waiver and say, we're writing to express our strong condemnation of this waiver will deny children the safe, loving, and happy families they deserve and turn away qualified potential parents. So what is this, when you hear that the Trump administration is doing this, what do you feel? Like, what's your reaction?
I'm mad. I'm mad about it. I'm mad about the steps we've taken in the name of equality in our community. I'm mad about all of he's just walking those back. And you're right. The way that Trump's shenanigans, every day it's a new outrage. We're outraged, and he, breaks norms every day, and that gets all of the news coverage. And then things like this don't get the ink that they deserve. And it's, as a person I've been out almost 9 years now, which is shocking to me. And my gay and bisexual and trans brothers and sisters who went before me and put their lives and their careers and their whole selves on the line to kind of move the needle for equality. I'm hurt for them, and I'm angry about it, and I'm angry that they just got a free pass to just be stupid and ignorant and hateful. I think sometimes they forget that real families are affected, real people that I know, people I'm in contact with in southern states that are trying to adopt a child. And finally, we're allowed to in our state. And then for sure, there are two, heartbroken lesbians and two heartbroken gay guys in South Carolina that thought they were going to be able to have a family this year, and they can't now.
And as the members of Congress said, the standard should be what's in the child's best interest, not what's in the best interest of Mike Pence and the Christian far right in this country. That, I mean, in the name of Jesus, they want to discriminate. And in the name of Jesus, they want to make people suffer, to me, is completely inconsistent with everything I know about Jesus.
Amen to that. And think about, like, my family was a foster family when I was a kid. We had a dozen foster kids over the years, and it was really a really important time for my family. We, the three of us kids were able to kind of see a glimpse into how hard it was for a lot of kids who don't have a home. And it changed me. It changed my siblings. There are kids sitting in places that are sterile and without love and without warmth and goodnight stories. There are kids that need to have a loving home that now don't otherwise get to have that. They could have it immediately. But Mike Pence, in his infinite wisdom and questionable web browser search, What
was it like? It's interesting. I've never talked to someone who had foster kids coming into their home. What was it like overall? Was it challenging
sobering.
at times?
Oh, it was so hard. These kids, we had one young man that we got when he was 5. And the whole goal was to help him find his forever family, which we finally were able. We had.
So they're coming to you temporarily. You know that's what they're there for.
Yes, that's what that's kind of the role our household played. But we actually ended up having this kid for 2 years, and he became my brother. He's a beloved, part of our family, and watching the things, understanding and learning at a very young age. I was 13 or something, but being able to have insight into what challenges had already happened in his life, things that would blow your mind, things that I can't talk about because I'm not at liberty to say, but really tough things. And the fact that our family came into his life just in the nick of time, and he had a great kindergarten teacher in our hometown, Mrs. Colheed, who took him in, knew what the situation was, spent infinite number of hours with him, getting him up to speed, and got this kid he had never been in school a day in his life when we got him up to speed. He graduated kindergarten, went into first grade. He was thriving. He was doing well. The intervention of our family's presence in his life was right in the nick of time. There are kids in South Carolina now in similar situations that nick of time family is now not going to be there.
Simply because they're same sex, or they do not adhere to the Christian beliefs that
Or they're agnostic.
Right.
Or,
or Jewish or Muslim.
Right.
It's remarkable, isn't this? It's Christian discrimination against other faiths, and in the name of Mike Pence. What was it like for your family? Why did they make this choice? It's so remarkable to think that a family would say, okay, you know what, I'm going to have these kids I don't know come in and live with my children.
You know, the older I get, and now that I'm a parent, the older I get, the more I don't understand what it was that compelled my folks to do that. We had to go through licensing and have our, inspectors come into our home. We had to have fire extinguishers in all the right spots, and a couple of doors inside of the house had to be put on the other way because they were not swinging the right way. I mean, it was serious business. We didn't just say, hey, we'll take your kid for the night. It was a serious thing. The older I get, the more I understand that in some way my folks wanted to impart something. My parents were very dedicated parents, and they weren't perfect by any stretch. But we had a loving home. We had food. We had warmth when we needed warmth, and we had air conditioning. By the time I was a senior, we finally got air conditioning, but that's beside the point. We were also poor. And when I look back now, I think that was even more remarkable, that a family who was stretched pretty thin, our folks still thought we had enough to give, and we did.
It's a beautiful gesture by your family to do that. So let's talk about something else that happened in late January, and this is kind of interesting that our two different communities here intersect. Trump met with a delegation of hard right activists, including Ginny Thomas, who's the wife of Clarence Thomas, who's an anti-LGBT activist. And at the same meeting was a guy named Frank Gaffney, who you probably don't know, but I know very well because I've written so many articles. He's one of the leading anti-Muslim bigots in this country, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center and ADL, and his comments are unbelievable. He would even call me here, because he has, saying Muslims in the media like myself are trying to destroy America. And in the government. Like, he really is a horrific... If there was a Klan towards Muslims, the Ku Klux Klan, he would be the leader. He'd be a grand wizard.
Yeah.
And Trump had them both at the meeting, and it says here at the meeting, Trump sat there as Ginny Thomas and others were denouncing transgender people in the military. And Trump is just sitting there. But Trump already did the ban and is fighting, and the Supreme Court, ruled, I think maybe right before last time you came on, that they're going to keep the ban in place until the case actually gets brought all the way up on its merits. And to have and it says a lot. You have anti-Muslim bigots with anti-LGBT bigots, and their intersection is their far-right activists who are spewing hate.
This is about 2020.
Frank Gaffney's a piece of garbage. He is just horrific.
Yeah, this is about 2020. They've got to amp up and build stanchions under these. They've got to prop up this hate for Muslims and gays and trans and fear about the bathrooms and trans people, doing
That's
whatever. This is about 2020. The thing about Donald Trump is he doesn't stand for anything. I don't think he himself is anti-gay, anti-Muslim. He's just dumb. And he blows whatever the wind he needs the wind to blow him.
To me, at this
He's
point,
that guy, outside of a used car lot, that big balloon that blows and it looks like a guy with his arms away. That's Donald Trump.
See, I don't care what his beliefs are any longer. In the beginning, I had that kind of discussion with people. I just know what he's saying, and that's all I care about. And it's racist and bigoted and hateful. So that's all that matters to me. I could care less. It's actually worse if he doesn't believe this stuff and he's just doing it to make his base happy. I'd rather he be a true believer and hate Muslims than... Because I have Muslim business partners, and he did. He actually is, and I wrote about it.
But
business
you're right.
In Turkey and ever.
You make a good point.
It means nothing now. I think you make a great point that this is 2020. Is the gearing up is keeping the base happy.
Yeah.
So bringing to the meeting into the White House, anti-Muslim, horrible activists, one of the worst out there. Bring him to the White House. Allowing them to come in, take pictures, the whole thing. And same thing with Ginny Thomas and others on the far right. And even Donald Trump's faith council. Involved people like Tony Perkins, who was listed as an anti-LGBT activist. Yeah. Who says horrible things. Why do they call me a hate group? It's remarkable they see themselves as somehow doing the work of God and Jesus when they're doing the opposite. And I don't get why other Christians don't call them out more. I mean, in their community, I know mainstream Christians, but even evangelicals don't go like, this is, look, I read the Bible. This can't be what Jesus meant. Come on.
They don't read. They're not curious. They don't care to know. The thing about the whole trans ban in the military is I've been doing shows with the military my entire career. I've been to so many war zones and met trans people, and I've met Muslim people who serve very proudly in our armed forces. The thing about Donald Trump is he doesn't even understand what the environment is with our troops. Like these guys and gals are out now. And they're beloved, and they're really part of the team. So it's 2020. He's ginning up his base. He's trying to get money.
I think 2020 is going to be uglier than people think. I think it's going to really be, because the more desperate he gets, the more his poll numbers, like in his mind, he's like, Rasmussen has me at 52.
They went up.
They're at 50, but in the real polls, the real average, he's still around 42% approval rating, 41%, and it shouldn't be that high, but that's life. It says about America that there's enough people who really like him despite his bigotry and racism and sexism. But when we get closer to 2020, November 3rd, 2020, and he sees these numbers not moving, which I don't think, and he sees polls showing he is lagging a Democrat, he will say and do anything to win this election. Anything. And that's really, so, demonizing transgender Americans, LGBT, Muslims, Latinos, whatever we saw in 2016, it'll be double and triple. I think so far worse. I really think so. And I think it's going to be incumbent on our media, if they do the responsible thing, not to cover some of his rallies. If he's spewing hate and lies, just go, we're not going to cover it.
And the violence. Right. Didn't somebody get assaulted at a rally the other day?
A BBC reporting. They barely covered it. We talked about it on the show. I could not believe the media.
When I saw the footage of it, I really got scared in a way, because it felt like fascist, like it felt scary, like a throwback to Nazi type stuff.
It's very, and in the next hour, I have Sopan Deb on, who's a reporter for the New York Times, but he was with CBS during 2016. He went with the campaign everywhere and saw some of that. And there were times that some of the Trump people were really nice to him. He's Indian American, so he's brown. So some were really nice, but others, definitely had the go back to your country type of attitude towards him, because he was brown. Even though he's born in America, he's American.
Right.
But still, so let's take a quick break. Come back. We'll talk a little bit about, because we live in New York, about Amazon leaving. Is it really Alexandria Ocasio-Castro's fault, like they're saying on Fox News right over our shoulder? And Cortez, I'm sorry, that was a completely un-Freudian. That was not supposed to be a Fidel Castro thing. That was completely, I swear to God, that was not, I like her. That was completely, wow, that was really a Freudian Castro thing instead of Cortez.
Wow. I thought you meant to do it, and I thought
I don't. I like her. So I apologize for that.
I'm eating a pretzel.
It's fine. You can do that.
Can you hear it?
I can. It's a socialist thing. We're all eating pretzels over here. We'll be right back with more of the Dean Obeidallah Show. I'm friend Chely Wright. You're listening to the Dean Obeidallah Show, where we crush Trump's lies every single day.
On Sirius XM Progress 127.
to the Dean Obeidallah Show on SiriusXM Progress.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live right here, Friday, February 15th. Look, folks, at the end of the day, you come home from work and you're hungry, right? We're all hungry. And you're like, what am I going to cook? You scrounge around the kitchen and you try to throw a meal together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But here's the thing. Why not make it easy for yourself and your family? Through HelloFresh. HelloFresh.com is America's #1 meal kit. Here's the beauty of it. You go on the website and you pick the meals out days before. Pick up individual meals, family size. You can have vegetarian. They have a big selection. You like steak? They got it. You like spice steak? They even got that for you. You like glazed salmon? Bingo, it's there. Meatloaf and mashed potatoes. All these great different recipes. And you pick it and it's sent to your door. When you open it up, everything is in the box. The entree, the side dish, the spices. You even get an apron, Chely. You get an apron.
Oh, my goodness.
And you get a recipe book. So even if you don't know how to cook, you can cook it in 30 minutes or less. And they start like at $6.99 and go up. But here's the thing. You can try your first 3 boxes for $20 off each box, which is almost getting it for free because they want you to try it out. Go to HelloFresh.com, that's HELLO Fresh.com, and use /Dean, as in me, Dean, your buddy, and you get $20 off with your first 3 boxes. Try it out. You're going to love it. Everything's there for you. You don't have to, no waiting, no thinking. You cook, an apron, happiness, joy, and $20 off your first 3 boxes. HelloFresh.com. In the time of Trump, we all need some little perks for our lives. HelloFresh.com is one of them. So, Chely, Donald Trump tweeted, "Great job, law enforcement in Aurora. Heartfelt condolences to all the victims and their families. America's with you."
Is America's with you in caps?
No, lowercase. Normal thing. Here's the thing, though. If the shooter was an undocumented immigrant, we'd have 25 tweets right now about...
Yeah.
Or just even an immigrant, not even undocumented.
Right, he's brown.
Right, just legal
then
immigrant. It would not matter. But when it's not, Donald Trump won't use the tragedy to try to help himself. And today, I don't know of any undocumented immigrants who killed any Americans, because if they had, we would know, because Fox News and Tucker Klansman and others would be talking about it. That's his name. And you have to know, there's a lot of names, like Fox and Friends, I call Fox and White Friends. Like
my God. That's amazing.
That's what there are. I'm not making stuff up. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So, in reality, though, we know in America today, and I don't know who the shooter was, I have no idea their identity, and 5 Americans were killed, including 5 police officers were wounded.
Yeah.
And 30 Americans will die today. And it's if Donald Trump doesn't care, because it doesn't feed his base. And Donald Trump doesn't want to be president of this country. He wants to be president of his base, mad king of his base.
Yeah.
That's what I call him.
Yeah.
I hope our next president, the next Democratic president, our president, whoever that's going to be, somehow can reach out to some. President Obama tried, and he was rebuffed all the time.
Yeah, but he was black, so
they would never accept him. But I don't think it's true.
No.
I mean, if it was a white president, like if Joe Biden was president instead of Obama, and Obama was VP, maybe some of them would have come over. I'm not sure. You're right, because there's that extra level of race involved. And Trump, there's an extra level of his race, which is orange and hateful. That makes it harder. So I don't know. We just had a Democrat running for president on before he came on, John Delaney, used to be a member of Congress. He says this whole thing is about bipartisanship, which is great to hear. I don't know when you're running for the Democratic primary whether our base is so animated on the progressive wing.
Yeah.
That running on a bipartisan, my whole thing is bipartisanship is going to win you a nomination, because he's a smart guy, successful business guy, served Congress for 3 terms. He just did not run for re-election so he can run for president. And he's very serious. He just opened up an office in New Hampshire, the first Democratic candidate to open an office in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So
our primary is going to be tricky.
I think
primary on the left.
You got to be progressive.
Yeah, which is going to, I just hope that those on the left don't cannibalize one another. Like that's a danger, right?
Well, it is, and it's interesting to see what's happening, because you had Beto O'Rourke yesterday say in an interview with Chris Hayes that he'd be open to tearing the walls down, running on not just Trump's build a wall. And I wondered, would a Democrat one day run on tear the wall down? And Beto said that. And then Kirsten Gillibrand said today, when asked about it, well, if the local people want it, I'd be for it. So I can see the Democrats almost trying to out-progressive themselves in a way. And the people down there, I think, it seems they'd be fine with no wall, just kind of fencing and border security. But there was something you tweeted about, I wanted to touch on, was about the sexist coverage of female candidates already. Like when they talk about Amy Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota who announced her candidacy, as being difficult to her staff. Some will say, how is that sexist? And I say, I've never heard a Democratic male candidate or Republican male candidate. I don't know how Trump treats his staff. No one even writes about that stuff.
Yeah.
What do you see? Like, what's your sense? Like,
Well, do you have my tweet in front of you?
I had your one about who was it about? I read it,
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
but it was about who was it about?
Well,
It was about the Whip Smart. All these.
Yeah, so it was. I just asked a question yesterday because I've been following, reading about all of these, people running on the Democratic side. So my question was, sorry, I'll get it. Question: do any political pundits use the term whip smart about potential male candidates? Seems like it's used exclusively for female candidates, as if being female equals less smart, and adding the whip smart moniker brings their intellect back up to being commensurate with men. And then I Googled like in a second and posted 5 screenshots of Nancy Pelosi, whip smart, Klobuchar, whip smart. This is I circled
I know this
it
is
in the
remarkable.
article.
I'm looking at it right now. Elizabeth Warren,
whip smart. Gillibrand, whip smart. Kamala Harris, whip smart.
it's very weird that they use that term, and the
Isn't
idea, and that. So your sense is that they're trying to tell people, hey, this
Even though
person's
she's a lady, she's smart, is what that means.
not just smart, whip smart. So she's really smart.
For a girl. That's what they're saying. And in fact, I did a little more Googling yesterday, and I found there was a point at which President Obama was introducing Hillary Clinton for something, and he introduced her as whip smart. It's
So you
troubling.
use a subtle thing where
I think it's saying even though she's a woman, she's smart. And so instead of saying, because just saying she's smart is on its face offensive to say just about a woman just because
this
she's a
woman's
woman.
smart,
So
right.
they say she's whip smart. So that's a secret way of it being said. And I've heard women say that about women too. It just kind of shows the institutionalized systemic
it's interesting when
sexism.
the subtle things that people point out, and it's not something I would ever thought. And on Chely Wright, if you're on Twitter, go to Chely Wright at Chely Wright, and you'll see she did the screen grabs with the circling of all the different women, and they kept saying whip smart about 4 different women, and it's remarkable. Different writers.
I
And
haven't
why
found it about a male candidate. I've been
Would
unable.
you call me whip smart or no?
I would say you're piercingly witty and smart. Yes.
But not whip smart. I'm just regular smart.
Well, whip smart. Now it's become a thing. Now it's a sexist.
Okay.
I don't
All right. So
even
you
want to
can't-
use
so-
it.
All right.
But
I like piercingly whatever you said there. It was very good. All
but
right.
I can't find it
For men.
being used by a female journalist or a male journalist about a male candidate.
All right. We're going to take one more break. Let's take a quick break. Come back with our friend Chely Wright right here on the Dean Obadala Show.
Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127. Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. We're live right here, Friday, February 15th. With our friend Chely Wright, country music star, LGBT activist, and we were just talking, just dishing on all the candidates.
Yeah.
But at the bottom line, Chely, what are you saying?
My bottom line is the ticket has to have, on the left, has to have a person of color and a female. And that's why right now, as of now, until my mind is open, but as of now, I'm Kamala Harris.
But you said that whoever gets a nomination, you're going to support.
I said
and that's
it.
the message we're going to keep
I said
saying
it to
over.
myself in the mirror today because I talked to myself. I said, if it's Joe Biden, I'm in.
No matter vote blue, no matter who. Everyone have that. We have to have that mantra going in our heads, just like Republicans used to do, because the stakes are too high. And I'm going to predict the Republican ticket will be two white men, older white men. It'll always be two older white men, but it will be this time and going forward.
What an oracle you are.
I know, I'm remarkable. So, Nostradamus, I'm calling myself. So, Chely, where can people follow you on Twitter? At Chely Wright?
At Chely Wright. And Chely, by the way, is Chely. Wright, Wright. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram.
And your website for tour dates?
Chely.com.
Chely.com. Check out Chely Wright. She's touring all the time. She's a great singer, and she's funny and whip smart. No, sorry. She's more than whip smart. Thank you very much for spending an hour with us. I really appreciate it. When we come back, it's What Just Happened, our weekly segment. We joined by New York Times reporter Sopan Deb and comedian Kevin Dabrowski right here live on the Dean Obadala Show. Be right back.